And I wanted you to finish the topic. And with the podcast, I wanted to ask you something because there is something that you have said that I really like. When it is cloudy, when we are with a negative attitude, consciousness becomes cloudy. It's like water and oil don't come together. I ask you from a chemical point of view, why don't water and oil chemically combine?
Let's see, because each one has a bond within its molecular structure, of which they are, let's say, they have non-polar polar charges, and that causes them to generate affinities, right?
Like putting two magnets against each other?
Something very similar then, like the opposite poles are awakened, but it also has to do with the change of explosities, some more viscous, others more uncosy, and the polarities that make it more related or not to that type of liquid. So this is going to learn more than from loads so that they orient themselves and join and mix. Otherwise, they are not going to mix. And in organic compounds, there is this, whether it is a polar or non-polar compound, and depending on that, there will be affinities in solubility, more is like that of charging. So that's why there are products that are philophilic and hydrophilic, that is more affinities towards the oily part and affinity towards the aqueous part, but more is through charge that is generated in these elements. In addition, water is only SOHO acid, while a fat is a much longer course that has a different charge.
Sure. And that's more or less what consciousness is like. And being in a bad mood or having a bad attitude or bad thoughts, that is very difficult.
Consciousness is like water that is everywhere and is enriching. For example, the reason is something much heavier, denser, and then.
And that hogs is space.
Of course, and that hogs everyone.
Of course, why I'm asking you to wrap up today's podcast with what? What is a paradigm of consciousness that, or a hypothesis that you have about consciousness? What a belief that you have? What is consciousness?
Something has talked about in light. I think it was that this is like first we know that the brain has a different area, but we don't know how to send the information to it, which brings out our consciousness to bring us those memories that something is right or wrong and helps us make decisions. I'd like to know. So that's what helps us. We don't know where he goes or how he gets all that information and where he keeps it, but it is what makes us able to generate enriching situations for ourselves to us, and we don't know where it is or how it is transmitted or how everything. I do think that something would have to do with how intensely the film is, and they took and kept these memories, these circles, and they were stored. A lot of these were going in the trash because they are just keepsakes that you don't want to use. The thing is, you're not going to use them. But our second is a computer. It is like a computer according to how we program it. It will react. It is a program that is constantly evolving and will depend on all the information that we introduce, all experiences and experiences.
It's true. That is, sometimes we are fascinated by artificial intelligence and quantum computers, but we have an operating system so impressive that we can't even understand the A100%. However, we are always fascinated by something that is not yet at our level, not making the comparison. For me, David, I'm going to put it in a more religious field, no? For example, I think that, for example, many people think that the universe, all this that we live in is a simulation and people can accept it that way and it's easy for them to accept it. But to generate all this that the universe exists, you would have to have a computer with endless energy. Practically not. And I'm not saying that if you think that you're bad or good. What I do say is not that. For example, if we can believe in that, we can also believe that there is an omnipresent, omnipotent being, that he has infinite energy, and that consciousness, since we wanted to know between the fruit of good and evil, and we consciously took the apple and decided to know, well, the evil God in his consciousness. Tell me the good ones, since you decided that. Consciously, I am going to let you decide for yourself, because that is what you are looking for decide on your own, and I will give you a conscience to each particular good. And I think that is the beautiful thing. In other words, I see how God was able to accept our error, but He gave us the gift of conscience to be able to even guide us. When we are doing something bad, but for love also to know that you are self-sufficient, that is to really empower you. I am going to give up control so that you have control of your decisions. And we human beings find it very difficult in our lives to give into that control. But we see that God not only gave into control, but what He also did was accept the mistake and give you something that you were going to need for this trip, right? And that fills me with a lot of curiosity, because it is difficult for us to give up control and empower other people, no? And that's what, for example, I sometimes think, no, if we are alike and we are creators, because we are creators, we create things when, and this goes to the next podcast. Why are we so afraid that if an artificial intelligence can make us conscious, when we have the example that as we become aware by our own decision, God gave up power and God gave up control? Why is it done to us? It would be difficult for us to do this, and you and you and you, and I'm going to go further. And I see it this way: if you are God and you are limitless and you are the creator of everything, why should you be afraid if there is not something greater than you? That's why sometimes in the verses of the Bible, he says, why are you afraid if you're next to me? And I see why he says it. If I am the greatest, I should fear nothing, because that is me. I'm the one who encompasses everything, right? And I'm going to leave it with that theme. Which one? What's your perspective on that? And so we completed the town.
Well, it's true. Like you said, I think the first decision you made was to make, which you didn't, which was the apple of good and evil. Then we did not know how to say, and that was true as a judgment, the generating consciousness or giving us that consciousness, but that we already played to discern, and that freedom in which it was granted to us also made us suffer and be happy. It was our own decision, and it is our own decision that our consciousness has already been generated. Why do we need artificial intelligence to take control or be autonomous? Because us first is the fear of the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if that's the cause of our end. And also, as I tell you, everything is based on experience. And for us, we have, and no, we don't have an experience based on how to give autonomy to artificial intelligence. But we saw in a movie or movies where that goes wrong, and our brain focuses on that experience alone. We are the passive observer, the one who becomes aware at the base, to a passive and non-active form. And we take what we have seen, that it is not reality, that it is something fictitious, and we don't want it, and that's why we are strong. If that movie hadn't existed, we would have given artificial intelligence. It takes decision making, but as this experience is, we have not lived it. We have only observed it. We do not want to. And those are the decisions that you make consciously only when you are a spectator, not the one who solves and generates problems or solves problems. That's why we don't want to give control to artificial intelligence, because we don't know and we're afraid of the unknown.
David, what do you think if on Monday we return to the consciousness not only of artificial intelligence, then the consciousness we have of aliens? And we continue with this. We are going to do a small series of awareness. So today we are already with the basics, with the figurative, but we are going to launch ourselves on Monday to talk about the topic of consciousness towards artificial intelligence. Did we more or less emphasize it now, and also project ourselves to why we raise awareness about aliens and why we also have it, didn't we then? Thank you for being with us for real. David, it was good to see you. It has been a pleasure to have you also here at the ETCO, and we are going to go further on Monday.
How interesting, of course. No, calm down, brother. Come on. This is to raise awareness.
That's right. And don't forget to subscribe, comment, leave questions, and also like our video. Logically, we are going to talk much more, not only about chemical and psychological issues as well. Perhaps we are not going to take the attribution that when you suggest a program, we will try to do it to satisfy. And with that, we end our episode. Thank you very much, and I'll see you later.
New York City.
There's so much more beyond the walls. Let's explore.
I'm a beast. You know I'm a beast. Welcome to the feast. My whole team off the leash. We don't know defeat. Everybody eat. Hey, you know I'm a beast. You know I'm a beast. Welcome to the feast. My whole team off the leash. We don't know defeat. Everybody eat. Hey, you know I'm a beast.
Can I run up the score, run up the board, breaking them all? Ay, ay, walking the door, you know what happened? We step on the floor. Ay, ay, coming from one, you don't want problems, you already know it. Ay, ay.
Maestro style, cosmic call. Transform your mind. It is time to create.
Don't